Sir.
All right. So what we were talking about, like the slots, we don't need to define. Those are sizing of slots being taken care by cluster automatically. But yes, something we need to take care, like we should have the sufficient capacity available to maintain the failure. Next action is here, the VM restart priority. By default, for all the VMs in cluster, restart priority set is medium. But if you will feel some VMs have dependency and some VMs have importance to run earlier. So for those VMs, we can define restart priority high. Okay. So we can define the restart priority as an high. Okay. Now, some in advanced parameters, we can define some of values where we say force a cluster node to use default isolation address. So what is my default isolation address is in cluster is my gateway. The management gateway is my default isolation address. Okay. So if we want to ignore the default isolation address, we can define these values in advanced parameter in cluster as in false. And if we want to give another isolation address like dash isolation address, you can define here 1. Then you define that IP. But do we really need to do this? Answer is no. But we can add multiple isolation address in rare cases where we want that. Force a cluster to wait beyond the 30 seconds to take isolation action. If you by default isolation actions being taken after 30 seconds, what is isolation action? You remember yesterday I told you the host will go away from the network, host in power on state, but my master host is not able to communicate with slave, and my subordinate host or slave host is not able to connect with the gateway. Okay, so if that's the case, it will wait by default 30 seconds and declare that host as an isolated host and power off and restarted the VMs on another host. If we want to increase this value more than 30 seconds, so we can do that. Force maximum slot size that I was talking about. Default slot size is 100 MB and default CPU slot size is 32 megahertz. If we want to change the default slot size, we can do. But where we will keep all these values? In my HA setting under the advanced options. So we can add, if we need some level of customization beyond the default value, we can go ahead and we can set these. However, there is number of more parameters available. But yeah, if you want to change the default behavior of your cluster, you can add these values there. You can customize these values. All right. Are we clear? Yes, no? Yes, no, any response? No response?
Yes, sir.
All right. So for VM override is something, those are the exception rules. When I say exception rules, you are overriding the rules for the specific VMs those are being set it by VMware HA feature, right? Let us suppose you say for particular VM, I want to make a restart priority high. By default, medium is the default value, low is the lowest value, high is the high. High means is if a host have 10 VMs and for one VM I have set the restart priority value high, when my host will get down, this VM will get a priority to restart. Okay. If in case we have the set of VMs are available here, these have most priority, these have less priority, these have less priority. Like I want this is DB, this is my app VM, this is app2, this is dependent on this is dependent on this. I want DB should be restart first, then app1, then app2. So we can define the value here like restart priority high, and again next restart priority high, but make a time delay. Time delay means, let us suppose I assume this VM take at least 2 minutes to be completely power on start up the service. So I can define a delay also. All right. And again for permanent device loss or APD path, so we can do the override options are available for particular VM level. So whatever on clusters HA settings we have, if we want to make some, first of all, you will select your VM. Then on the top of VM, you can make all the list of exception rules. Okay. All right. So what is vSphere HA orchestrated restart? So orchestrated restart is a way of restarting a VM in sequence. All right. So like the example I have given you previously, I have a 3-tier app where one VM is dependent on another VM and it's always recommended to power on first. Like this is my DB VM, this is my app VM, this is my web VM. I want DB should be start first, delay of 120 seconds, then app, then web, again app will start and it's again a delay of 120 seconds. So in this way, we can make a dependency rule and orchestrated restart or startup rule, so that if any VM is start, its dependent VM should be start first. This should be start first, second, and third, because this is dependent upon this and this is dependent upon this to be up and running in a proper way. So in that way, we can, for that, VM should be power on, tools should be detected, application should be, we can make a group into tiers and we can define the dependency rule and delay between them while they are powering on or they are restarting on another host if in case any host will got failure. All right. Yeah, this is the same example that is showing you, the one which I told you. B have dependency on C. It means that B should wait C to come up first. So first C will start, then B will start, then A will start. A have indirect dependency on C also. So indirect means directly dependency with B. All right. So that's all. I mean, we can do the setting host monitoring. Host monitoring is something important. If we'll not enable the host monitoring, it will not work your failures and all. So disable host monitoring before modifying virtual net VMCP component. So VMCP again is only available for non-vSAN environment where we are using remote storage like OPSAN or NAS. But if in case vSAN, then yeah, we cannot disable the option. All right. So from HA summary, we can check heartbeat, any configuration issue, the data store I have taken as an heartbeat data store, what are total data stores. We can monitor from the cluster monitoring set, configure what we talk about. Permission, it just show you the user permissions, what user can do, which user. Host, it will show the total host. VMs, it will show the total VMs running in this cluster. Data stores will show the total shared data stores are available in the cluster, not the local. And the network one, what kind of networks being used under this cluster, primarily the management and heartbeat network. These all settings, we can go and we can check the HA configuration. All right, so using HA and DRS questions comes in multiple times. So for any failover that is being taken care by HA, if a host will get failure. If resource not available, HA asks vSphere DRS to accommodate for the VMs wherever is possible, the best placement of the VMs. Start HA might not be able to failover VMs. I mean, sometimes my VM failover will not work because of if there is no admission control policy. If no admission control policy, it means that we are not assuming any reserve resource will be available or insufficient resource. So anytime if my target is not match the same network configuration settings, vMotion, and the available resource required to be start for those virtual machines, we won't be able to VMs won't be able to restart onto the target hosts. All right, so this is some lab where we are going to configure HA, then cluster setting, redundancy and all. But again, we'll complete the lab for entire module. Before that, we have a small lesson that is vSphere fault tolerance. When we say vSphere fault tolerance, it is just a sub feature under faults in HA itself. And that's protect our VM for zero downtime, zero data loss, and zero network connectivity. When we say zero downtime, simply what we are talking about so far in HA setting, if any host will get failure, the VMs will be restart to rest of the hosts. But if in some cases customers say this is my critical applications and I don't want it be restart, if your host will got failure, I want 100% SLA for this virtual machine. So for that, you will enable the fault tolerance feature for those particular virtual machines. If you will enable the fault tolerance feature, it will create a secondary VM somewhere on another host, and it will keep this VM as a standby mode. Standby mode means is only one time one virtual machine will work. Okay, so enabling FT means creating a secondary virtual machine on another host in that cluster, and it will keep on the data sync between primary and secondary virtual machine. So some limitations for enabling FTVM: support 128 GB, not more than 8 vCPU. All right, no migration, create secondary copy files, provide fast checkpoints, support multiple disk format, and all right, can be used for DRS, supports interoperability with vSAN also, that we can configure with vSAN also. So what happens actually? So primarily the thing is required a fault tolerance, restart the failed VMs, that is one. DRS will take care of primary and secondary VMs and their placement also. And the major things is we have required a separate VM kernel for maintaining the fault tolerance traffic. If you have not the VM kernel port, like the way you configure VM kernel for your vMotion traffic, for your management traffic, same way you have to configure a VM kernel port for your fault tolerance traffic. Okay. So along with HA and DRS, where we are enabling the fault tolerance for the virtual machine level, for that we have to configure a VM kernel port. Then you can enable the fault tolerance for that particular VM. It means that is for the VM for where we have created the fault tolerance VM. All right. So if in case this VM got failure, then your secondary VM will immediately come up and there would be minimum RTO, at least minimum one RTO, but there would not be any impact of the end user who is working on this VM remotely by using SSH putty or something like that. And all the data will be in a safe state. But if this host got failure, let us suppose a secondary VM is up, again, what will happen is, because this is FT enable, it will create a new secondary virtual machine, and this will become primary, and it will create again a new secondary VM for maintaining the fault tolerance. Are we good so far? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Good. So what happens between primary and secondary VMs? So whatever is available for the primary VM, any VM file, data, any VMDK file, all data will be duplicated or replicated somewhere on secondary place. It's recommended to keep like a secondary data store that will maintain your secondary, all the secondary files, where my data will be synced between primary and secondary using my FT VM kernel. All right. So somewhere you could say this is my virtual machine, and under this virtual machine, these are my resources. This is my standby virtual machine. But all, as I said, all the data is getting syncing through the FT VM kernel port. So if FT VM kernel port you have not defined, you cannot enable the FT feature. And also that I said HA and DRS is the prerequisite to configure the FT. All right. As I said, FT is a feature of virtual machine level. Turn on FT. Once you will turn on FT, a replica, a standby VM will be created, but you won't be able to see that. Okay. Somewhere on another host. Maybe this is hosting on host 1, that will be hosted somewhere on another. It will never create the replica on same host. Within a cluster on different host, and ideally there should be a separate data store as well. Okay, so that's the key point we have to keep in mind. How do we enable HA DRS setting? How we'll need to set HA DRS, implement multiple heartbeat network, enable FT as and when required. Okay, it's not mandatory to enable, because if you will keep on enabling FT, equal amount of CPU, memory, storage will be reserved separately for the secondary VM. Okay, so that's why VMware have give you the limitation. Don't create too many FT virtual machines, because a secondary VM will reserve the equal amount of CPU and memory and storage on the target host. All right, so that's it for this module. So yeah, lab part, I think again we have to do it tomorrow. So we'll play around the labs tomorrow. Okay. If you guys have any question from today's session, please let me know. Definitely, I'll be sharing the recording. Post this on.
Sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, for FT enabled server, sir, the HA is not applicable, right, sir? For FT, because it's already creating
Yeah,
a
correct.
second.
It's 7 replica VM. So what will happen if the host will get failure? Its alternate VM will become active. But again, this scenario, okay? So Phil, assume HA is enabled here. If this host got failure by XYZ region, host 1. So how the failure will maintain? If this host will got failure, this host, all right? So in this case, this VM will not restart anywhere. The secondary VM will be power on. Okay. And what will happen? Because these are FT enabled VMs, they will create another secondary VMs on somewhere on another hosts. Okay. Yeah, you are right. In case of FT enabled VMs, they will not fail over itself. The secondary VM will turn on, and again, this secondary will become primarily, and again, the secondary VM will get created on another host. Okay, until it's fulfilling the requirement, kind of FT for VM kernel and all. It's not a simple behavior of HA failure. You are right.
Okay. Sir, if again the whichever the server is got, which the server is down, it's come up.
No
It is
problem.
like
Then this VM is
oh,
gone away from there.
the secondary, the newly created VM will be gone, sir.
No, 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 no. The
No, no,
existing one. There is no
no,
existence of this VM now. If this host is, let us suppose this is failure, this secondary VM will become primary, and
yes,
here
sir.
new secondary VM got created, then
Yes.
no role of this VM at all.
Okay, this will be like deleted like this, sir.
Deleted. Correct. It will be removed. So what will happen is, maybe near in future, a secondary VM can be created as per the standard process, but no existence of existing VM. It's a cut paste actually.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Do anyone have any doubt before we close this call? All right, guys. Then tomorrow we'll be playing around the labs. Yeah. Thanks for today's session, and let's join back tomorrow at same time. Bye bye and take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.